Messes happen.
Messes happen, and we're live right now.
Oh, we're live. Perfect. Deal with the mess.
That's right. Hey, everyone. A little late today because the weather is pathetic, but we're here at Water Street Studios with Danielle Hollis, who is the person who makes everything happen here and gets people running. So she's going to show us. Yes, it does. So we're going to do a couple of things this morning. We're going to talk about some fun stuff that's going on tonight. We're going to take a quick gander around Water Street. So if you have never been to Water Street Studios in Batavia, this is going to be a treat, and you're going to want to get down here. And then I'm going to talk to Dani a little bit about how she got into this whole thing. So
cool.
Why don't
should we wander?
Let's wander around a little bit and check stuff out, because you got a really cool blues thing going on right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you haven't been to Water Street, don't feel bad about it. It's okay. But from now on, come to Water Street.
Every weekend.
It's right in your neighborhood, so just come and hang out.
All right.
It's really easy.
We're in the main gallery right now. If you haven't been to Water Street, it's one block east of 31 in downtown Batavia on Water Street. If you're familiar with the Kiss the Sky record store, we're right beyond that a little bit.
We have a portal that goes right to Kiss the Sky. That's what Steve and I call it.
Which is pretty awesome.
Open the portal. Yeah.
So, and your hours are open from when?
Yeah, so we're open to the public Friday 2 to 6, and then Saturday and Sunday 12 to 4. However, if you can't come on the weekend, that's okay. Just call us in advance, and we're happy to open the door during the week too.
So we're standing in the main gallery, right? In the main gallery,
This is the Dempsey family gallery, actually. Sponsored by the Dempsey family.
All right,
thank
fantastic.
you, Dempsey family.
There we go.
Appreciate it.
Why don't you give us a quick run around here? What's going on?
Yeah, so maybe we can get the vinyl over here really quick. So this exhibition, let me back up a sec. We do new exhibitions every second Friday. That means we switch exhibitions every single month. And the way that we're able to do that, it's crazy talk, but the way that we're able to do it is that we have a gallery committee dedicated to jurying and curating and putting these shows together. And right now we're booked until 2020, which is insane.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I know, it's amazing. And we were able to plan far enough in advance, thank goodness, to do an Art of the Blues exhibition during our blues festival that's happening tonight.
Perfect.
And so this exhibition is called Art of the Blues. We've got some prints, or not some prints, some original artwork from New Orleans. We've got artists, there's about 100 pieces of artwork between the Dempsey Family Gallery, and we have a second floor gallery as well, featuring over 40 artists that range from like Chicago to New Orleans. Wow. So there's a lot of variety here. There's a lot of representation of like the trifecta of blues musicians. Awesome. Which is really cool, and you guys will be able to pick it up as we kind of walk around.
Now, down here in the Dempsey Gallery right now, we're talking mostly 2D art, so I got photos, I got artwork, but upstairs there's some other stuff going on. Yeah,
so upstairs is the abstract version of Art of the Blues, so it's all the more abstract work. I don't think we're going to be able to get up there today because there's a lot going on down here.
You'll have to come down and see it yourself.
There you go, it's a little teaser. But we do represent all varieties of artwork. So we have a couple sculptures in the show, which is pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Should we keep
walking? Yeah, let's keep walking.
Yeah, let's keep walking.
These are some fantastic pieces of art down
Some
here.
of these are really cool. Eric, you might
oh yeah, hey, check this out.
One. This is by Lisa Youngdahl.
Right there. That's a nice piece. For those of you who don't know, we've been teasing it a little bit on some of our social media, but Lisa did this piece of artwork for a special blues coffee blend, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, that you'll be able to get starting today. So, yay!
We've got a couple other pieces by Lisa.
Lisa's fantastic.
Glen Calvert is here representing. We sold one of Glen's pieces last night.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing that some people should know. So all of these pieces are for sale, obviously.
Most of them. Some of them are not for sale for whatever reason, and that's fine. Most of them are always for sale. Okay. Yeah.
So if you come down here and you see a piece that you really like, because I know my wife was looking at a piece the other day that she was like in love with.
Yeah.
So my bank account's getting a little bit lighter.
Yeah, I'm budgeting for this show. There's a couple pieces I really want.
There are some great pieces down here. So
speaking of great pieces, let's go on to Jesse Howard. You can stop by. This is one of our sculptures before we go to Jesse, really quick. This is by Marcy Rogie. She's one of our resident artists here at Water Street. She runs our Clay Lab program, so if you're interested in taking ceramics classes, you can chat with us about that, and Marcy will make it happen for you. She does incredible work. Yeah, she's amazing.
So cool. Very New Orleans feel to a lot of this kind of stuff, isn't it?
So I'm going to point out Jesse Howard's work really quick. This show was a juried show, which means that artists paid a fee and to enter the show, and then we used those funds to create a Best of Show award. And Jesse Howard was announced yesterday as Best of Show for Urban Wisdom.
Wow.
So this is the piece. You can sit with this, I put a bench right next to it, because you could sit with Jesse Howard's pieces all day, and you'll still find ways to connect to it.
That is fantastic.
It's powerful. You got to see it in person. It's amazing. We brought in a Michael Skura from Oswego, helped us out and reviewed all the artwork that was submitted and went through a very thorough review process to determine the Best of Show, and it was based on certain criteria similar that we use when we jury exhibitions here. And Jesse Howard won, so congratulations, Jesse. He was unable to make it last night. He was coming in from Chicago, and then I think traffic and all that,
love that
business,
stuff.
Whatever, but we're really excited that he won. Jesse's become a little bit of a regular here at Water Street, and we're very, very, very honored to have him represented here.
Those are all three of these pieces. So 1, 2, 3 are all his, right?
They're powerful.
Wow.
Yeah, Jesse teaches over at Oak Brook Art Center.
Okay.
I believe is what it's called. Or Oak Park Art Center, my bad. Sorry, guys. Jeez Louise. But yeah, you can catch him over there. Just Google him. He's got a website.
And we'll have links to all of the artists that we can in the show notes here. So if you're looking to either buy or get more information about any of those artists, just check it out down below.
Yeah, and a lot of the artists that submitted to the show are local, or relatively local, like within a 25-mile radius. So you can even set up a time to like have coffee with them if you wanted. They love that kind of stuff.
I can get you some good coffee.
Yeah.
Speaking of coffee, before we go too far, do you want to crack into you
Yes.
specifically asked me for coffee, and I know.
I would love some.
All right,
coffee.
so I got some. I'll let you open it because my hands are busy right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we've got our Black Ice Brew and bottles here. Dani specifically asked me for cold brew this morning. So
I have an addiction to cold brew, and I'm fine with it. If I'm gonna have an addiction, might as well give you energy and.
So, I always tell people I sell a mildly addictive legalized drug. So
that's so real.
This is art in and of itself right here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Woo.
Good stuff.
All right. Then we have a smaller gallery that is adjacent to our Dempsey Family Gallery. It's the same gallery. It's just a little bit more intimate.
This is kind of cool.
This is where we typically put some of these smaller pieces.
Okay.
Terrence, I'm not sure how you pronounce this Terrence's last name. Lappe?
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Lape.
He's got so many crazy stories. Terrence is very connected in the blues world. He apparently he introduced Anna Popovic to Buddy Guy, in real life.
Interesting.
He's been an extra in Public Enemy. He's if you can track down this guy, go get his story. It's amazing.
Very cool. We just saw Anna Popovic at it was 3 weeks ago at the City Winery downtown.
Oh, nice.
She was freaking amazing.
That's awesome.
It was a great show.
Yeah.
Great show.
Yeah, City Winery is a cool spot.
It is a very cool spot.
We've got Billie Holiday represented, John Lee Hooker. We've got a lot of portraits in this show, which is really cool. There's one way over there that I want to get to too.
Okay.
Jennifer Hunger's stuff is super cool. She was here last night.
Nice.
Tim Mannion's photography. I actually went to high school with Tim. We used to go to the Blues Festival in Chicago all the time together. Hey, Tim, if you're watching, I'm glad you got in. He shot me a message. He's like, "Do you run Water Street now?" I was like, "Yeah, man, you should submit. This is great." But he used to, he still takes photos of these things.
Great,
but
great
he's like, "Do you guys accept photographs?" I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
photography's
heck
art,
yeah.
man. Of course we do." We've got signs during our openings that say, we have Solemn Oath as a beer sponsor for us. Cheers, Solemn Oath, we love you. But we've got a sign that says, beer is art too.
I would say coffee is art too.
Coffee is art, you know, it's all about perspective, guys. Yeah, we're just kind of moseying around. These pieces are so cool.
These are
Kathy Collinson is one of our resident artists. This is an encaustic piece. If people are familiar with encaustic, it's dealing with like heating up wax. It's again one of those things you guys see in person. It doesn't exactly translate over the phone, I guess, but it's got this layer that is like it's that like, waxy layer. It's super cool.
Got some 3D stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, we should point out some of these too.
Okay.
So Steve Shelby was here last night as well. He did, this is like brass. So he makes bassoons, I think.
Wow.
Those are made out of brass, right? Pretty sure he makes
bassoons are wood, but there might be some
it's
other parts.
It's some sort of instrument that is very fancy. And he creates things like this as well. And he makes urns and all sorts of stuff. So we got Muddy Waters here being represented front and center.
Very cool.
Michael Glascott, his wife Deb teaches painting classes with us. Steve Warrenfeld's over at Kiss the Sky came over before we even hung the show and made sure I put a red dot in that. So that's Steve's. He's already purchased it.
If there's a red dot, it's taken. Great stuff.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Very
and then
cool.
a little fun fact too, if it took us a while to get it, but we are accessible, which is amazing.
Yeah, because the big stairs are cool, but not cool.
Well, we're a community arts center, and we, attract the best and welcome all, and that means that we need to be accessible to everybody, including people who made theirs.
I remember when that went in, that was fantastic.
We're all very excited, and thank you to A to Z Mobility for helping us, and the Community Foundation, thank you all.
Yep. Awesome.
And many other individual donors helped us make that happen. Kind of zigzag back around.
Yeah.
I'm going to get up close and personal with Victoria's piece here. Stand back, don't touch it. Well, look at how beautiful she does glass.
Yeah.
Jim Jenkins, who's also our resident artist, fashioned this beautiful coil. I don't know if you can see it. But it's a way to, it's a way to protect the glass. When you have a music festival, people tend to drink, and Victoria has glass, and we need to be careful and respect all of our artists. And she partnered up with Jim to make this really clever, way our pieces of artwork when people are coming in. So very excited to have that.
Beautiful piece. Nice.
We've got Gordon Parker over here. Gordon's artwork, I'm a huge fan. I bought one of his pieces. He was exhibiting upstairs with us last month. And my partner and I fell totally in love with one of his pieces and took it home.
Nice.
His stuff is priced to sell. If you're one of those people that's like, I can't afford artwork, it's not true.
Yeah.
You totally can. Gordon is a great example. He prices very affordably. And if there is a piece of artwork that you're like, I can't live without this thing, but maybe it's too expensive, talk to the artist and do a payment plan.
Yeah.
It's very easy. They're willing to do that stuff.
Sell it,
they want it to go to a good home. If you're passionate about it, they will make it happen for you.
Good thing to know.
I think my dad might be interested in buying this piece. He kept talking about it last night. So we'll see if he pulls through. I'll kind of zigzag around. Got a couple more by Gordon over here, about 4 of them. His stuff is so, I just love Gordon's stuff.
This piece
is so cool, isn't it?
Cool. Wow.
Yeah, so Philip was here last night. This is called Backstage Pass.
So yeah, we kind of get the huge perspective about being backstage in an event. That's very...
Yeah. I saw when they submit images, to go into the show, we saw the image of it and it was like, I was like, I don't get it. And then it showed up and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is why I don't jury the shows. We have a committee to do it, but I always take a little sneak peek because I'm curious. Another one by Gordon Parker.
Yeah.
I think this one's probably going to sell tonight. This is John Kirkpatrick. You can catch him next month upstairs in the gallery. He'll be exhibiting. His stuff is super cool. He uses
So
a lot
if
of
you
color.
want that, you better get
Yeah.
here early.
Yeah. Sabrina Martin designed this really cool guitar.
Wow. I'm gonna kind of, she was in love with it. That is fantastic. Who's doing this one?
The artist is Brandon. This is my personal favorite.
Very cool.
Like standard, like folk art from New Orleans type feel. I love it. Washboard Jackson is the artist. He has
Wait, sorry, what's his name?
Washboard Jackson. He's
He's-
one of 3 professional washboard players.
That is fantastic.
Isn't that
So he's
amazing?
a washboard player. He's definitely a blues guy,
Yeah.
and he's doing art too.
Yeah,
That's
like professionally,
unbelievable.
that's what he does. Our curator, Steve Sherrill, who we love, and he makes all the magic happen, was camping down in Florida. Some people who knew Washboard Jackson and got introduced and was like, can I take these back up with me for the Art of Blues show? And they were like, get it. And so now we
Nice.
have the pleasure of having Washboard Jackson in our show, which is amazing how the world works. So we're very excited to have you. I totally love his stuff. Again, I'm looking at my budget and figuring out what I can
Yeah,
afford
no
for this
kidding.
show.
I just want a piece
Washboard
by,
Jackson would be cool.
I just want a piece by a dude named Washboard.
Right?
I think that would be freaking amazing. I'm looking at the prices.
It's so cool. Steve Sherrill can tell the whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That'd be great.
And that's well, I
Go
guess we
back around
didn't
the
hit
beginning.
these guys, but
Okay.
Rachel Joyce put these together. If you've ever been to New Orleans, you get it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Absolutely,
She
that's
really
pretty
captures
much-
the vibe.
obviously right out of
yeah,
New
I mean,
Orleans.
Yeah, it's amazing. You got Frenchman Street right there.
Nice. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right downtown, right in the French Quarter.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
And that's our
Awesome.
tour. Yeah.
So gallery's open. This is the blues thing that's happening right now in the gallery.
Yep.
Why don't we find a bench or something to sit down,
Cool.
someplace
Yeah.
maybe I can set this down because my arm's getting really
Let's,
tired.
can
And
we
talk a
prop it
little
up
bit.
on a
Sure.
table and sit on this bench or something?
Yep.
On the messy table I was talking about? Should
Well, we
get a
can't see the
little-
table.
Oh, it's got a, look at that.
Yeah. So
We
if
can
do
always
that,
pull the table
and
too.
Or
you
pull the
want it
table
closer?
or the bench, one or the other.
Dun, dun, dun. These tables have wheels because we're innovative.
All right, let's sit down and talk a little bit if we can.
Oh, it's gonna feel good to sit down. Today's gonna be a busy day.
So tell me, I got really bad lighting over here. I apologize because the lighting is on the photos
That's true.
and not on us.
We can scoot back. Why don't we scoot back?
Okay.
Be patient with us, guys. It
This is the
8
best
a.m.
part
after all.
of the video.
Is that better?
That is
Or is that
much
worse?
better. No, that's much better.
It's better? Okay.
I don't know.
Who knows?
Somebody
You
who's
guys
a-
know what we look like.
Somebody who's a video artist is gonna come up here and, actually, let's do, if we're right here, that ought to be good.
Can you see us?
I think so.
Okay,
There we go.
perfect.
All right, so you have been at Water Street for how long now?
Almost 3 years.
Almost
3 years in September.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your background
Sure.
and go way back to where you
Okay.
grew up.
Yeah.
Because I know you're local and
Yeah.
there's a lot of connections, so.
Yeah, my story's weird. It is not linear at all. It doesn't make any sense, but I love living it. I grew up in Batavia. My parents have a business in town. I went to Batavia High School, graduated, went to Augustana College, studied philosophy. And everybody goes, oh my God, what are you going to do with that? And then I had one professor that when anytime somebody says it to you, you go, anything I want and better than you. He's like this little Filipino man.
Perfect.
Dr. Bonzon, I hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Bonzon. And he was totally right, though. In college, I really learned how to read and, like really critically read and how to write. You'd be surprised how many people don't know how to write a sentence.
Yeah.
In philosophy, you get a couple pages to communicate a very complicated subject matter, and every single word counts. So you learn to write. And thank goodness I did, because now running a nonprofit, grant writing is a major part of my job. And
Sure.
if I didn't know how to write, we wouldn't be funded. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Huge part.
Philosophy program at
Philosophy is
Augustana.
worthwhile.
It is, absolutely. Yeah, like after college, I did the normal thing where you're like, oh my God, it's the real world. What do I do? And so, of course, I joined a band. And are we back?
I don't know.
Are you connected to our network?
I think so.
Okay. Are we back? I think we're back.
All right.
Looks right.
Something's happening.
So to catch you up, what I was talking about is I played in this band. I played drums in a bluegrass band, which is like an oxymoron. You like don't do that.
Drums and
yeah,
no,
it was
that doesn't happen.
silly. But it was cool. It added this like whole new level, and I was playing djembe for them,
Okay.
and then they wanted to go on tour, and I was like, I don't think I want to go on tour. I was like, well, what can I do instead? And it was at that point where I was like, I think I need to learn some like discipline. Like I think I need to get ready for the work world and make some money. And so of course, if you want to go make money, you go farm, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely
That's
huge
what
money-making business
does,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah. So I went to an organic farm and I farmed for a growing season. And I actually ran our farmers markets, and it was an organic farm out in Iowa. Little Mechanicsville, Iowa, a farm called Ecollective Farm in CSA, and it was magical. It really was. My farm mates and I all lived and worked together, and it was definitely that like hippie commune vibe, which I was very familiar with because college.
Because you're a philosophy major
And because I'm a
so-
philosophy major, we grow our own food at Augustana. I'm like totally that stereotype. And yeah, I learned how to farm and learned how to work hard. I mean, like you need a lot of self-discipline if you're farming, and you know, we had pretty big numbers to hit, and I managed all of our farmers markets, so I was up at like 3 a.m. You know, every day on the weekend.
That is hard work.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they were, you know, 10-hour days that started at 3 in the morning, if not more.
Yeah.
And yeah, I totally fell in love with it. And there was this spot in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where I was selling vegetables called Nubo City Market. And it was this business incubator basically, but it was a nonprofit, and the structure, it was just so cool. You know, they were supporting all these local businesses, and it was an initiative to drive revenue back into the downtown.
Okay.
After the big flood in Cedar Rapids.
That's right, yeah, remember that.
Yeah, so they put this big initiative together, they built the building, they built the programming, and I was like, this is amazing, why don't more of these exist? And I would have, you know, beers with the ED and stuff after the market, and just like pick her brain about, you know, how she got there, and how this thing happened, and, you know, again, why it's not replicated everywhere. And she's like, it's not replicated because nobody knows how to manage a nonprofit.
Wow.
And I was like, huh. It's like, well, I could learn how to manage a nonprofit.
Sure.
I could learn that. And then I'll like build this, you know, business incubator that supports local farmers and, you know, small businesses. Because again, that's my background with my parents owning their own business.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the growing season, I got a phone call from my dad, like praying that I was going to be leaving the farm. Because it was a raggedy farm, but I loved it. It was super charming.
Nice.
And my brother at the time was applying for DePaul. He was about to go into college, and my dad, of course, was doing some investigation and found out that they had. We're live.
All right, we're live again. I'm sorry. We're on. I got the super secret password now for the top-end Wi-Fi network.
That's right. Yeah. There's a
I
lot
won't
of
tell anybody.
limestone in this building, so we have a lot of Wi-Fi connectors around.
Yeah. Okay.
All
Cool.
right. So backing up.
So you were at DePaul. Your dad had called you about DePaul.
Yep, my dad called me about DePaul, and he's like, hey, they have this master's program in nonprofit management. And I was like, oh, that's cute, Dad. I'm not going back to school, though. Like, that was not for me. And he's like, well, just think about it. And so I looked at the curriculum, and all the titles and, like, descriptions of the stuff, I was like, I absolutely want to learn all this. This sounds amazing. And so I applied, like, very last minute. I think I got in, like, the day before the deadline. And heard a couple months later, and I had gotten in, and so I left the farm, and I moved in. My cousin took me in Chicago. Wow. She was living in Lincoln Park, and she traveled for work all the time, and she's like, we've got this extra room if you want to crash. And I was like, that's great.
Nice. It's kind of like all last minute stuff just falling into place.
Totally, yeah. I moved to Chicago and had this like reverse culture shock because I was used to living out in the middle of nowhere. And I didn't own any nice clothes. Like I wore ripped jeans and like, you know,
Yeah.
a sports
'Cause
bra all
you're,
day.
You're
Like,
in a
that's,
farm in Iowa.
yeah,
and
like
now
that,
you're
that's all you
downtown
have to wear.
Chicago, right?
And I didn't know how like the transportation worked. Like I didn't know any of that. And I had my bike, and classes started like soon thereafter. And I remember just like looking at my phone and being like, okay, I take this road on my bike and I like go to the loop. It's fine. And I'm again in like ripped shorts and like a t-shirt or whatever I owned, and rode my bike down. Got there, was so sweaty, you know, because like it was like, I don't know, September or something.
Like that, yeah.
So sweaty. Locked up my bike, like ran up. I'm like 5 minutes late to class. I'm never late anywhere, so I was mortified. And I opened the door, and it's, you know, DePaul in the loop has, you know, they're in like the skyscrapers, whatever. So it's like fluorescent lighting. It's a huge class. It's an intro class. Huge class. Everybody is in like business attire.
Yeah. And it's a master's degree.
Here's this girl with her bike helmet on and like ripped shorts, sweating, being like, I'm here, you know, and everyone's
Nothing like a grand entrance.
Yeah, like what the heck is this girl doing here? And immediately I was intimidated, you know, I was like, I'm never gonna make it through this program. I'm not cut out for this. Like, it's, you know, that voice in your head just starts rolling. And I remember that first day, my professor was Mark Light, and he's amazing. He was a mentor of mine. And he split us into groups. We had to take this survey about like what type of leadership style you had. And I already felt like I was the odd man out, right? And so we took the survey, and there were 4 different leadership models. And so he's like, all right, if you're in this one, this one, this one, go in these corners of the room. And I was the only person in my corner of the room, and I was a symbolic leader.
It's like going from worse,
it was
bad
awful.
to worse.
So I'm like sitting cross-legged on this table, being like, just get me out of here. Like, I'm quitting school. I'm not meant for this. And so he goes around the class, and he's like telling people about, you know, what their leadership style is. And then he gets to me as the last one. And he's like, and then we have Dani over here, and she's a symbolic leader. And I was just like, ugh. And he was like, and then he said, none of you are going to succeed in your organization if you don't have a Dani.
Really?
And I was like, really?
Okay.
Tell me more.
All of a sudden changed.
Yeah. I was like, tell me more about this. And he just went into it, and really at like the core of it, it's like if you don't have a way to connect symbolically to people and connect them to something that's bigger than themselves, they're never going to write a donation check. They're never gonna, you know, say that you're qualified for, you know, to be eligible for a grant. You're not gonna get people to show up. You know, it's like you have to do people to people, and it doesn't matter how organized you are or how structured your life is or whatever. If you can't connect to people,
that's it.
It's never gonna work.
Done. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I can do that. I'm used to doing that. And right before that happened, we had like a break, and I remember going down in this like stinky alley in Chicago, calling my dad, crying, you know, and my mom's like on the phone too. And I'm like, I quit, I can't do it, you know. My dad's like, suck it up, you big wimp, like get back in there. And I'm really glad I did, because I ended up graduating like top of my class. I was a mentor for a handful of people in my program who had been in corporate world for a long time and were looking to like make that transition into nonprofit.
Sure.
And it was an amazing experience. And I probably had like 6 months left of my program, and I got a call from Water Street.
Nice.
And it was, you know, the board had reached out, the person who was board president at the time, who was a friend of my family's, and he knew that I was studying to be a nonprofit, you know, exec level nonprofit manager. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, I'll be an ED, an executive director by the time I'm like 30 or 40. And then Mr. Austin Dempsey calls, who was the board president at the time, and he's like, what are you doing? And at the time, I was going to school full-time and then also working full-time for an organization called Growing Home, down in Englewood on the south side of Chicago. And I was working on this urban farm in Englewood, teaching transferable job skills to people who had employment barriers of some kind. So a lot of people were like coming out of the system, or maybe had a record or whatever, and we were teaching them skills that they could use and helping them expunge their record. Working with legal groups and things to get them out in the world and doing good work, and changing their lives around. So I go, well, Austin, I'm like farming in Chicago, what are you doing? You know,
Farming in Chicago.
like what's the question? And he's like, well, we're looking for an executive director at Water Street. And I was like, cool. Why are you calling me? And he's like, are you interested? And I was like, no.
Wow.
I was 25, or just turning 25 or something like that.
Not even finished with the
I think I was 24 at the time. Yeah, I wasn't done with my program. I understood how nonprofits worked on paper,
Right.
but I had never done it.
Right.
And
Or really seen it modeled.
and he's like, well, think about it and like get back to me. And I was like, okay, whatever. Went about my day, and then I think I like ran into him, and he's like, so what do you think? And I was like, no, I don't want, like, it was so scary. Like, there was no way I was going to run an organization. And then he's like, well, at least interview. Right, at least interview. And I was like, okay, yeah. And I had some major competition. There were people, and it was very intimidating. I mean, I had people who had 15 years experience and whatever, but I went back to Mark Light's class and, you know, like thinking back on everything he said, and the one thing that the other people, I found out later, of course, the one thing that other people didn't have that I had was that I knew the community.
Yeah, you're local.
I had connections. I grew up here. I had a good story. And that's really what got me the job. I mean, I was qualified in the sense of I had my degree, and I knew how to budget and all these kind of things, which were, if I didn't have the master's program, I would not be running this today. That's 100% true. But being a part of the community really helped. And so I went back, did all the interviews, went back and forth. There was an offer on the table, and I said no. It was so scary. And then finally, you know, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. Like, take the risk, go do it, learn a whole lot. I think I cried every night for like a year. The first year working here was hard. We had a lot to rebuild. We were deep in the red. We had a lot to do. And we had a whole community that we had to revive and like build, right? Only half of our studios were filled. We had some classes running. We had no gallery exhibitions booked. I mean, I was working with nothing, which was scary, but then also at the same time was like super exciting because
get to start from the ground zero. What are you going to do? You don't have to fit anybody's shoes or something like that. It's all you.
No, so I rallied troops together, and I was like, all right, who wants to build an art center? You know, like rebuild. It was kind of like version 2, right? Like we were in our second cycle of revisions, and a whole bunch of people showed up and plugged in and showed support, and both in time and effort and also financially. And here we are today, and we're at like almost a $500,000 operating budget, and we're doing shows every single month. We have all of our studios filled. We do all sorts of special events. We have tons of classes running. We have like 250 classes that run every year. It's amazing.
Let me just stop you and kind of get into that a little bit, because I think there's a lot of stuff here happening at Water Street that I have to admit there's been a lot of change that you've brought about in the last 3 years that I didn't know about. If I am hanging out, I'm in Batavia, I'm into the arts, what can I do to get involved, either on a professional level, on an arts level, or just on a, if I wouldn't consider myself an artist, how can I get involved there? So those two people, how do they get involved here at Water Street?
So for both sets of people, the step number 1 is showing up. Come see us. Come feel the space.
Walk in the door. It's fantastic.
I think that our biggest obstacle is getting people through the door, right? Art places that revolve around the arts can be intimidating.
A little bit.
Both for people who are not artists and people who are artists. It can be a very intimidating thing. And one of my biggest things is trying to break down that stigma. I know nothing about art, and here I am running an art center.
And as a gallery, it's open. I mean, there's no admission fee for those hours that we talked about on the weekends.
Totally
you just
free.
Walk in the door and check stuff out. So,
totally free.
Hey, cool way to spend a couple hours on the weekend.
So I mean, I would say, for me, like somebody who's not an artist, we do a ton of community events here. So you can see like live performance art on the 4th Fridays, and it's only $5. We really should be charging like $25 for these performances because they're amazing, but we want to make it accessible so that everybody can afford to come. We typically don't turn people away, so if you can't even afford the $5, come talk to me, we'll make it all work. The gallery opening receptions are super cool because it's like, this is really common in Chicago to do these regular monthly openings. Aurora does it as well. But you can see the new art on the walls, which is exciting for me. I like checking it out, but what I like to do is visit the artists in their studios. We have 30 artists working in 26 artist studios. And so just exploring and talking to people and popping into their studio and like learning their story on a Friday night.
We'll have to do a tour upstairs sometime because it's a lot of fun and you can just pop in, like you said, just pop in and see what they're working on.
Yeah.
Talk to them, they're there, it's cool.
You can see like, you know, projects that are in the works and stuff. That's probably if I wasn't like the boss or whatever, that's what I would be doing. I do it anyway, though, like during the week I spend a lot of my time just hanging out with our artists.
Sure.
The other thing you can do is take a class, you know, like if you're like, and there's always the people who are like, I can't even draw a stick figure. It's like, well then do clay, man. You know, like maybe drawing's not your thing, and that's fine, you know, but try something.
What kind of classes you've got? You do have drawing classes,
so we have
clay?
Drawing, painting, ceramics, glass, jewelry making. We do like watercolors, we do...
How would, if I wanted to see a list or something like that, is it on your on the website?
Totally.
And you can sign up on the website too? So, which is waterstreetstudios.org. So, okay.
Yeah, the whole catalog is listed there, so you can go through, and then if you have any questions too about classes, or you're like, say you have a kid who's maybe in that weird like teenager stage and you don't know where to fit them in, just call us and we'll figure it out for you.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll make it all work. The beauty is that we can be flexible, and you know, we like to pivot towards our community. So we want to hear from you guys, and if you know there's a class that you want to take and we don't offer it and you want us to offer it, you have to tell us, you know, like we can't read minds.
So you're open to suggestions?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time.
Awesome.
Yeah, even for like events and stuff. I mean, we've got, that's what birthed the live art series.
Okay.
We had people who were like, well, why don't you guys do performance art in the gallery? And when I was coming from Chicago, I would go see, you know, performance art probably once a week. You know, I had a lot of friends who were filmmakers and dancers, and it was a regular thing that I did, and I was like, oh yeah, why don't we do that? Duh, we should absolutely do that. And so we got a grant so that we could pay performers to come and perform in our gallery, because one of the big things is that artists a lot of the time get taken advantage of because people think artwork is just a passion or a hobby, and for a lot of people it is their livelihood. You know, performance artists all the way to some of the artists that are exhibiting with us in the gallery. And so we want to pay artists for their work. You know, they're putting their time and effort and money into the actual materials and all that, and so they should be paid for that. So we got a grant, and we get, you know, performance artists to come out and perform in our gallery every fourth Friday. We've had like everything from like magic shows to live radio shows to tap dancers. We had Mark Yonley from Chicago Tap come all the way out here and do a performance. It was amazing. We had Shanti, who came and did storytelling and played sitar at the same time. She was incredible. Yeah, we've had all these
got some fantastic artists
crazy
coming
shows.
Out here in the Western Burbs.
Yeah, and then if you're an artist, I mean, if you're an artist, you can do all those things too. But if you're an artist and you're like, I really want to exhibit at Water Street, maybe it's your first time exhibiting, which is totally fine. We have a propose a show form on our website, and so that's step number one. You have to fill out the paperwork. That's a way for us to know that you're serious. There's a lot of people who come up and they're like, I want to do a show, and then like all of a sudden they disappear and we don't hear from them for 8 months. So do the paperwork.
Got to get that done.
I know it's not fun, but you got to do it, because then you're eligible to be reviewed by the gallery committee.
Okay.
And then they'll try and fit you in if you meet all their criteria. And we may even pair you up with a couple other artists and do like a 2-3 person show in the main gallery, you know, in the Dempsey family gallery. So another way is if you do instruction. Two, we hire local art instructors to teach our 250 classes we do every year. And then if you have some heart to you as well, we offer about 2,000, and that's I think gonna almost double next year. Free art sessions for under-resourced families.
2,000? Yeah. Free art sessions? Holy cow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Our mission is to make the arts accessible, and money is a big deterrent. In that formula. So we have grant funding that helps support us to pay for supplies and art instructors to go out into places like the Batavia apartments and teach after school programs for those elementary school students. We're in all Batavia elementary schools right now doing STEAM learning.
Okay.
It's an after-school program. It's called Ripple Effect. And that's where we use the arts to teach STEM learning, so science, technology, engineering, and math.
Right.
And we're looking to expand that program. Fingers crossed that we get this new grant so that we can expand outside of Batavia. Batavia was like our piloted program for it, and it was wildly successful on all sorts of levels. So we want to expand it to North Aurora and Aurora now because there are more under-resourced schools and families in that area. But then, yeah, we do all sorts of, like, we do some free art sessions at the library sometimes, and like over at the homestead, and all sorts of stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So there is no shortage of ways to get involved in the arts.
No, like
No
I don't.
excuse not
Yeah, I
to.
don't
Wow.
sleep. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. We have so many people that make this
You
place
got good
possible.
coffee access.
This is what keeps me going. Cold brew by Fresh Ground Roasting.
It's all the
Actually,
big
Fresh Ground helps us out a great deal because we actually have their beans here and we have it available for all the artists to drink and get on. So
We've been, we've been around here for a little while, and it's been a lot of fun to see the changes that have happened and some of the stuff that you guys are doing. I got to be honest with you, this whole conversation, I had no idea of the breadth of stuff that you had done. So I feel a little bit guilty, like I should know a little bit more, but I don't.
I mean,
and it's exciting to see the way you guys are branching out into the community. So
we can't exist without them. So.
yeah, absolutely. I just want to do a little bit of a plug for tonight.
Totally.
For the Blues and Roots Fest. So we
Yeah.
went around and we had obviously the gallery that's in right now, and this is through going to be up through June.
Until July 8th is
Until
when the show
July
comes
8th
down.
is when this show comes down.
Yeah.
So if you like some of the stuff that's in here, or if you want to buy it, definitely come by and check it out before July 8th. We'll have links down in the show notes to whatever artists we can get links to.
Yeah,
And
totally.
definitely to Water Street, so you can see what's going on here. Check that out. But tonight, starting at 6 o'clock, there are still tickets available.
Yeah, they're going really quick. We've already sold 200 and we're only selling 300 tickets.
Yeah, so you want to get here,
get
but
them quick.
the Blues and Roots Festival is tonight between two stages, between Water Street and Kiss the Sky, which is right next door. A lot of fantastic artists.
Yeah.
So there'll be drinks, there'll be coffee, there'll be beer, there'll be all sorts of good stuff. Come by, check out the artwork, check out the music scene, because it will definitely be a lot of fun, and check out Water Street Studios. So.
Yeah, awesome.
It was so fun to have you. Thank you so much
Thanks,
for
Eric.
taking the time and getting up
pleasure.
early on a Saturday morning.
I don't sleep, guys. No,
I
I'm
will
just kidding.
definitely get you more coffee. So
Cool,
thank you
awesome.
guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.